come people that come to the US can be so successful past the people that were born in this country? What's up with that? It makes no sense at all. Can you guys tell me why that happens? I literally want to be educated on that.
What? Many of you can't even afford to get on a plane, let alone to get on a plane to get to Africa. Some of you can't even afford to get on a plane to visit different states in your own country.
Her screen name is Bantu Doll. She is a Congolese African immigrant from the Democratic Republic of Congo, one of the top poorest countries in Africa in terms of human conditions, where more than 6 million people have died due to conflict since the late 1990s, where child labor and dangerous mining conditions are rampant, where more than 3.5 million children of primary school age are not in school, where over half of the population lives in extreme poverty and lives on less than $1.90 a day, where there's lack of clean water, electricity, and health care for much of the population, a country that suffers from outbreaks of cholera, Ebola, and malaria, and where the life expectancy of the adult population is around 60 years, well below the global average. I could go on for a spell, but how are Black Americans supposed to feel knowing that their ancestors created the civil rights infrastructure that allowed immigrants such as this to come to the U.S. in the first place? How are Black Americans supposed to feel when we see people like this talking crazy to the people who open doors so you could walk through just to be disrespectful? You can't escape war and poverty and then arrive in a Black-built country and turn around and mock the descendants of enslaved people who made your opportunities possible. Many melanated immigrants who come to the U.S. do so through education visas, refugee programs, or green card lotteries. And many of them are often better educated or resourced than the average citizen from the country that they are from. But that does not mean that their country as a whole is thriving. And once they're here, they like to think that their individual achievement is superior to the Black American collective legacy. Many of them choose to think this way with a full understanding of the generational trauma and the structural racism in the U.S. A lot of immigrants like this grew up hearing the negative media portrayals of Black Americans, and they chose to run with those stereotypes because many of them truly believe that spreading anti-Black American propaganda is a part of assimilation into American society. With that being said, African and Caribbeans are not more successful than Black Americans, period. Especially when you measure success in terms of historical impact, cultural influence, political advancements, and generational accomplishments. And we managed to accomplish all of that and much more while being a minority in a country whose government weaponized racism and terrorist groups like the KKK against our community, and still our ancestors placed their feet firmly on the ground with courage and faced their enemies head on because they actually care for their community and they want to provide a safe and better space for their legacy. When people claim that melanated immigrants are more successful than Black Americans, they're usually comparing the most educated upper class immigrants to the most economically marginalized Black Americans. And that's not a fair or an honest comparison. Most melanated immigrants who come to the U.S. legally, especially those who are Caribbean or African, have already passed through strict visa filters which select high education, middle upper class, or specialized skills. By contrast, Black Americans represent the full spectrum of society in the U.S., from wealthy professionals to people in systematic poverty created and maintained through centuries of racism, including slavery, segregation, redlining, mass incarceration, and unemployment discrimination. So what people are doing is comparing the best prepared slice of an immigrant group to the most historically targeted group in the country. That's not a valid metric, and it's intellectually dishonest. Black Americans' accomplishments are unmatched. They have contributed immeasurably to American society and to the world, from the civil rights movement, which sparked global human rights changes, inventions from the traffic light to home security, cultural power, hip-hop, jazz, R&B, streetwear, film, and much more, political impact, labor movement, education, science, military services, and much, much, much more. Black Americans received approximately 50,000 patents between 1870 and 1940, a period following the abolition of slavery. This number exceeded the patenting activity of nearly every immigrant group during that time. And keep in mind, during slavery, it was illegal for our ancestors to read and write. The significant numbers of inventions demonstrates the creativity and the ingenuity of Black Americans following the emancipation. Black Americans have achieved all of this under the most severe forms of anti-Black systematic oppression in the modern Western world. No other group has done what Black Americans have done inside the empire that enslaved them. So the idea that any immigrant group is quote-unquote more successful is a flat out lie, and it's wrong. These narratives also supports the racist ideas that Black Americans are lazy or unmotivated or culturally deficient, and ignoring the historical traumas and the ongoing systems that still target us to this day. It also ignores how immigrants benefit from Black American struggles. Melanated immigrants did not create the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act. Black Americans did. You are not more accomplished in the U.S. than the people that have been here for generations fighting. You can't cherry pick a few Nigerian doctors or a Jamaican professor and say the entire immigrant group is more successful than a whole population with centuries of blood, sweat, and tears. There's many people who abandon their country and flee to the U.S. and possess the same mindset as the Congolese refugee I highlighted in the beginning of the video. But just remember, a lot of their countries are suffering from outside exploitation and corrupt governments. They are not in a position to look down on anyone, least of all Black Americans. So when these individuals from other nations comes to the U.S. and look down on Black Americans while ignoring their own country's poverty, violence, and lack of social development, they are doing so from a place of insecurity, colonial conditioning, and willful ignorance.